Okay, good. All right. Good morning, everybody. Look, we've heard loud and clear from the people of the province of Ontario that they want their public spaces back. They want their parks back, and they want their streets back. Parks are meant as places for families to gather, for parents and grandparents to bring their kids and grandkids. They should be able to enjoy public parks and playgrounds and not be afraid that they're going to find needles or dangerous drug supplies. Our downtowns, our downtowns are supposed to be places where small businesses thrive and customers feel welcome. That is what Ontarians want to see in their downtowns and in their communities. Encampments are a public safety concern and not a solution to homelessness. We do not believe that somebody suffering from mental health and addiction is best treated in an encampment. These sites represent a safety risk for the people living in them. From fires, overdoses, to violent crime, encampments are not safe for anyone. What people need is to be treated and connected to treatment in their communities. That is why our government has invested historic amounts in the homelessness prevention program. We've increased funding for the homelessness prevention program by over 40% for an annual investment of over $700 million. Plus, through the New Deal agreements with Ottawa and Toronto, there's an additional $720 million for emergency shelters and housing. And we're investing almost $400 million in addiction and recovery hubs across the province. All told, over the next 3 years, we are spending more than $3 billion on anti-homelessness and emergency housing supports. But we know this isn't enough, and that more needs to be done, which brings us to why we are here today. And it is my pleasure to introduce the Premier to talk about the additional measures our government is taking to help our communities become safer. Thank you. Premier?
Sure. Thanks, Paul. Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you, Paul. I'm thrilled to be here alongside my Deputy Premier, Minister Jones, Minister Calandra, Minister Kerzner, Minister Downey, and Minister Tibollo. I also want to acknowledge and welcome all the great mayors today representing communities from right across our province. Mayor Campion from Welland, Mayor Guthrie from Guelph, Mayor Brown from Brampton, Mayor Leggett from Cambridge, Mayor Nuttall from Barrie, Mayor Diodati from Niagara Falls, Mayor Davis from Brantford, Mayor Ash from Pickering, Mayor Carter from Oshawa, Mayor Burton from Oakville, Mayor Foster from Clarington, Mayor Gordon from Midland, Mayor Dilkins from Windsor, Mayor Cisco from St. Catharines, and Councillor Smith representing the City of Orillia. Thank you all for joining us today. And thank you for your leadership and partnership in tackling the widespread growth of homeless encampments. As Minister Calandra mentioned, these encampments are taking over public spaces, with illegal drug use happening out in the open, creating huge safety risks for people and communities. Enough is enough. This has to stop, and it will stop. Families deserve to play in and enjoy their parks and playgrounds without fearing for the safety of their kids. A couple of weeks ago, the mayors standing with us today wrote to me. They asked for specific measures to help end the spread of encampments in their communities. Today, Ontario is answering. Everyone here knows solving the homeless crisis, ending encampments, it starts with more shelter space and roofs over people's heads. That's why we're investing $75.5 million to further support homelessness prevention and provide people living in encampments with access to alternative accommodation. This includes $50 million to create more long-term affordable housing units across the province and $20 million to expand shelter capacity and create additional temporary accommodation spaces like tiny modular units. This new investment builds on the $378 million we're investing in homelessness and addiction recovery treatment hubs, and the nearly $700 million Ontario invests every year in homelessness prevention and supportive housing programs. More investments isn't enough. Municipalities, local police forces, communities, the courts, they need new tools. So this afternoon, our government will introduce legislation that will protect communities, clear out encampments, make our parks and public spaces safe again, and get people the help they need. These new measures include amendments to the Trespass to Property Act to enhance penalties for people who deliberately and repeatedly break the law. The legislation will also make it crystal clear that it is illegal to use illicit drugs in a public space, including encampments. Police will have the new tools to direct individuals to stop the use of illegal drugs or to leave the public space, with fines of up to $10,000 and up to 6 months in prison for people who repeatedly use illegal drugs in parks and public spaces. As part of the measures we're announcing today, we're requiring more accountability as to how provincial investments are being spent to make sure it is being used as effectively as possible to end encampments and help people in need find a safe and appropriate place to live. And finally, we're going to keep exploring new approaches that provide the option of rehabilitation instead of prison for people convicted of minor or non-violent drug offenses. Because ultimately, our goal is to help people recover while keeping our community safe. Friends, these measures we're announcing today answer our municipal partners' call for help. They will expand capacity in our shelter systems, ensure people struggling with addictions and mental health challenges get the support they need, help and end the use of illegal drugs in public, and equip police services with the new tools to address and dismantle encampments. They're going to help keep our community safe and support those suffering from homelessness, addictions, and mental health challenges. And we're going to keep working with our partners, including the incredible mayors up here with me today, to get it done. Thank you again for joining us today, and may God bless the people of Ontario. Thank you.
We will now open the floor for questions from the media. Just a reminder, it's one question and one follow-up.
$1,000?
Well, again, this is for illicit drugs being used in our parks. You know, homeless people, we want to help them. We want to find shelter for them. We want to get a roof over their head, get them back out there working and finding a job. I don't think you just heard me. The people that are using illicit drugs in parks, we're going to make sure that they're going to be treated appropriately, but that's up to the police. That's up to the courts to decide. I don't direct the police. I don't direct the courts. But this is going to give them the tools to make sure that people aren't using illicit drugs, heroin, cocaine, fentanyl, all the heavy drugs and the needles that they're leaving outside the parks that kids play in. It's unacceptable. And I don't know any community that wants encampments in their backyard where their kids go to a park and when there's needles all over the
Premier, what's the timeline for all of this? Because obviously this is the final day of the legislature. This law will not be passed until possibly February. But what point do you want to see encampments out of parks?
Well, we want to do it immediately, as quickly as possible. As soon as we can get this through, they'll give the tools to not only municipalities, but the police. None of us direct the police, but their big frustration is that they don't have the tools. We'll give them the tools to get the job done. Again, I don't direct the police, none of us do, but they need the support from the legislation, and they're going to have it.
And Premier, when you're talking about affordable housing, I mean, building affordable housing is a long-term, larger structural issue here. How is $50 million going to create enough affordable housing to get every person in an encampment out of those encampments?
Well, if you add up everything in total, it's probably close to $3 billion, and as Minister Calandra had mentioned, not to mention the big problem, largest is the largest city in Toronto, and second largest is Ottawa. We've given them a tremendous amount of money, well over, I think it's $700 and some odd million just to Toronto alone, and $700 million across the province. The other area that we're going to make sure that they're held accountable, the service providers, and large cities like Toronto. Are you using the money wisely? And we'll look into it. Right now, I've heard a lot of stories that they aren't using it as effectively as they should. So we'll be digging into that as well.
Premier, can you tell Ontario, can you change things? I'm wondering, because there's already laws on the books to stop, to say it's illegal to camp in parks and whatnot. So how will, for example, the amendments to the Trespass and Property Act and the drug kind of clampdown, how will that actually change things if the existing laws aren't already?
Good question. I'll pass it over to my Attorney General.
Okay, thank you.
So under the Trespass to Property Act, there will be 2 amendments proposed, one of which is a continuous trespass, and that will be proposed to be an aggravating factor for the judge to look at. The second piece is the likelihood to reoffend and to continue to trespass. So those 2 pieces are currently not in the Trespass to Property Act. We propose that they will be, and that will give greater tools for the judiciary and for others enforcing the law to move forward.
Does that get around the court rulings that we've had in Waterloo and Kingston that you can't get people out of parks unless they have somewhere to go? Is that a way around that?
This is a full package, and I think you heard the Premier say that we're focusing on getting people the help that they need. We're putting money on the table right away, in addition to the billions of dollars that we've already put out there. So that's where our focus is. Those other cases, they've been concluded, so we're quite confident that this will be effective, and I look forward to getting people the help they need.
Just using jail as an alternative to housing? Are you using jail as an alternative to housing? An aggravating factor allows you to jail people if they keep setting up encampments.
We're not changing any of the penalties currently under the Trespass to Property Act.
Premier, on the tariffs, sorry. On the energy threat that you mentioned last night,
Yes.
Does Ontario actually have the power to turn off the lights itself, or do you need to go to the federal government and they do it? How would that process actually work? Can Ontario do anything on its own?
Well, first of all, it's a last resort. We power 1.5 million homes, and if they put on tariffs, it's going to be unaffordable for Americans to buy electricity. Just like if they put tariffs on the 4.3 million barrels of oil that's Alberta shipping down to the U.S. If you put 25%, that increases every barrel of oil by, every gallon of gasoline by $1. So I don't think that President-elect Trump wants that to happen. What we're sending a message to the U.S., you come and attack Ontario, you attack livelihoods of people of Ontario and Canadians. We're going to use every tool in our toolbox to defend Ontarians and Canadians across the border. And let's hope that never comes to that point. Let's hope we can get through this trade deal. The problem is not with Canada. The problem is with China. And China shipping in parts to Mexico, Mexico slapping on Made in Mexico stickers, and shipping them up through the U.S. and Canada and taking American and Canadian jobs. That's the problem. And as I said yesterday, it's very, very clear. Mexico has a choice to stand with Beijing or stand with Washington. I know Canada or stand with Washington.
Is Ontario out on a limb, though, on this on your own, or is Quebec a signal that they might be interested in Alberta?
I was speaking for Ontario yesterday. The options that we have, the tools that we have in our toolbox. We'll be meeting with the premiers on Sunday and Monday going into Tuesday. That's going to be up to each jurisdiction. I'm talking on behalf of Ontario.
Can you tell the people of Ontario why they're now on the hook for $2.2 million for Ontario Place when you had said there wouldn't be much of any taxpayer dollars used?
Well, again, through Ontario Place will be the #1 destination, tourist destination, next to probably our friends in Niagara Falls. And we're going to make sure that we're building it properly. That's a cost estimate. I don't believe we're going to be spending a fortune on an underground garage. We just don't need it. So let's find out what the total bill comes to. But let's talk about all the revenues that are coming in, that will come in when we build a brand new state-of-the-art science center and state-of-the-art Ontario Place. But I got a message for the media. We have over 80 members door knocking. I asked over and over again, have you ever heard one comment about Ontario Place? Not one single comment. Have you ever heard anything from Science Center? No. So what people are focused on is cost of living right now, making sure they have good employment, making sure they can put food on the table and pay a mortgage or pay a rent. That's what people are focused on in Ontario. That's what we're delivering. And I know I have a great team of mayors that focus on the same issues in their communities because I hear it through our MPPs. That's what our main focus is. And the #1 focus now is to protecting jobs against the attack coming from the tariffs from President-elect Trump. That's what we're focused on.
Isn't voluntary treatment on the table for legislation? You say you're going to stop municipalities from improperly spending funds that we provide them, I assume. Can you give me an example of how the municipality is misspending money?
Service providers are an issue. Not all, but some. And I'm talking in particular when we're giving that amount of money to the City of Toronto, Again, I've heard that it's not being spent as wisely as it should be spent, and we're just going to make sure that it's spent in the right manner. That's all.
Premier, just to clarify, will involuntary treatment be part of the motion being tabled today?
No, we're encouraging them to get treatment. We want them to get treatment. We have the hubs that we're spending $378 million, probably close to $400 million to help people. We want to help people. We don't want to punish people. You know, do you know who's a leader in this? And I'm sure all the mayors agree, is Mayor Carter in Oshawa. He has done an incredible job. He understands the whole system. And Mayor, why don't I call you up and say a few words? Here. And just tell them what you're doing in Oshawa.
First of all, good morning, Premier. Good morning, everyone. I hope everybody's having a great day so far. We appreciate the opportunity to work along with the province at this particular time. All of us that stand in front of you today are committed in regards to making sure that we represent the families that have loved ones out on the streets that are suffering with mental illness and addiction. We want to make sure we do everything we possibly can to save lives, not take lives away. Compassionate intervention was brought up, and I thank you very much for that question. But compassionate action is what we are committed to, and that's what this group represents. We are compassionately trying to find the right pathways forward. In the great city of Oshawa, we continue to make sure that we have outreach workers there 24 hours a day to connect and navigate the system so that individuals can find a bed or the assistance that they need. We set up a hub in April of 2020 to make sure medical services and addiction services, housing services, transportation, food, security, bathrooms and showers were set up. We continue to work with the agencies in our community. But we are committed in regards to making sure that the families that have got individuals that have lost a loved one, that are struggling with addiction and mental health, we do everything we possibly can to be able to save their lives. We are committed to it.
Did you support the Ontario Big City Mayors Caucus resolution calling for involuntary treatment?
So I was one of the ones that said that I believe that compassionate intervention is the right direction to go. I can tell you, standing in front of you today, as a recovering alcoholic and drug addict of over 34 years, the compassionate intervention saved my life. And therefore, when I speak to families that have loved ones, that they want us to do everything we possibly can. These elected officials are committed in regards to making sure those families' voices are heard and that we do everything we can to save their lives.
You still want the government to explore?
I want to make sure that we do everything we possibly can to be able to save people's lives. If that includes compassionate intervention, I think that it's worth a conversation. We're having conversations across this country in regards to compassionate intervention. If this is about saving people's lives, why don't we put everything on the table and say, what are we going to do to be able to save these people's lives? I find it, and my colleagues find it, unacceptable that people are in tents that can either freeze to death or burn to death. Families expect us to do more, and we're committed to do more. That's what today is. A partnership with the province, partnership with municipalities, and a partnership with the federal government will be part of us creating pathways forward to be able to save the hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people that are suffering with addiction and mental health.
Premier, other than energy, what are some other big ticket ways that that Canada could retaliate against the United States?
Well, we're putting a list together along with the federal government, and all the premiers are putting a list together. We'll compile that list, have conversations with Minister of Finance, Chrystia Freeland, and we'll move forward. But we can't just roll over as we're being under attack and hurting our families and our jobs. We just want to send a message. When it comes to the U.S., I want to send them more electricity. I want to send them critical minerals. I want to make sure that we have fair trade going back and forth across the border. That's what I want to do, and support them any way we can. They aren't our enemies. They're our allies, and every single governor and senator and congresswoman and men that I speak to, they agree. I'll be speaking to both governors of Michigan and New York today, and I'm sure they share our same thoughts and values about giving them more electricity if they need it. That's the last thing we want to do. Would we do it? Let's wait and see.
When you about as a result of what you said yesterday?
Not at all. We have these meetings every single day lined up for the next number of weeks. It's just communicating our message down there. Our ad, the agency that did it, did an incredible job. I think it was the best I've ever seen. I'm getting endless calls from friends down in the U.S. saying, what an incredible ad, getting a lot of calls from the Florida area. It's hitting 100 million Americans, and we're going to ramp it up in January even to a further extent. All it is, it's a great message. We're stronger together. Not weaker, stronger together.
Should Canada do these ads? Like, should the federal government be making these promotional
Good point. I mentioned that yesterday in our meeting to the Prime Minister and all the other premiers, that if you have the capacity, you have the capabilities, do an ad. But even if you can't do an ad, they're doing an incredible job. They're reaching out to their counterpart governors, no matter if it's on the East Coast, Midwest, Southern, or West Coast. I'm just so proud of the job that all the premiers are doing, and from all different political stripes that we're sticking together. I did comment that I think it'd be in the best interest of the Canadian government to start running ads as well. The Americans should not be able to go on social media, turn on a radio, turn on a television without seeing an ad from Canada or Ontario, getting our positive message down there and telling the Americans how important of a trading partner we are that keeps people working in all the communities, from the mayors that are standing behind me and further. So that's what we look forward to doing.
Premier, when you say you want to see encampments cleared, is there a definition for encampments, or is it anybody who's kind of sleeping in a tent or sleeping rough?
Well, I think everyone knows what an encampment is. When they're popping up tents in public parks that they shouldn't be in public parks, they need support. I'm the first to go out there and say, I want to help these people. And here's the money to help these people. And we just have to make sure that money is being allocated in the right fashion. But there's no one, along with Mayor Carter now, you can see why this guy's a champion. When he came up here, my other champion is Dr. Michael Tibollo. When it comes to mental health and addiction, I can speak just for Queen's Park. There's no one down here at Queen's Park that understands this better than he does, and I'm going to pass it over to Minister Tibollo.
Thank you, and good morning. Just to build on the point that was made, or the points that were made by the mayor, one of the things that we are concerned of as a government is to ensure that we build a model that is based on treatment and recovery. What that means is meeting the person where they are, but when we meet them, give them the opportunity to then be able to get the help they need. And that means building community-based treatment where individuals can get the support in their respective communities. I've had opportunities to meet with each of the mayors that are here today, and they all understand the importance of building a system of care that meets the person where they are. And you can't leave them in an encampment, or you can't leave them using substances. You have to provide them those opportunities. Our government, under the leadership of Premier Ford, has invested more than any government has ever invested. First with the $525 million annualized over 10 years, the $190 million that was put in during the COVID period, the $90 million that was put in under the Addiction Recovery Fund, of which 280 beds are now operational. So when someone says to me, have you seen a difference? Well, we've had over 12,000 individuals, unique individuals, utilize those beds that have now been opened. What that means is if we build the capacity into the system, we're going to be able to help individuals and meet them where they are and provide them the opportunities to get their control, their lives back. And what we're building today is a continuation of that continuum of care, because again, helping someone get into withdrawal management, to get treatment, you need the supportive housing, but you also have to help him transition back or her back into the world that we live in. Helping someone put a roof over their head, addressing the structural determinants of health is part of that system. And that's something that's understood by every one of the mayors that's here. And it's certainly understood by our government. And we are ensuring that we put the resources in place to build that system, which is long overdue that it needed to be done. But we are acting on it and building that system today for everyone.
The province will have to decide on the new report that about Barry's land expansion. Apparently, Oro doesn't want to give the land away. It's now on the province jurisdiction. Do you have a decision on that?
That's probably a good comment for Mayor Nuttall to come up, another fabulous mayor. And then I'm going to ask Mayor Dilkens, because we're going on two routes. We're talking about the border and that. I would like Mayor Dilkins to talk about the border and how the Windsor Police Services stood up. They have their boat in one of the busiest crossings in Canada, and how we need to support, the federal government needs to support the CBSA. We shouldn't have a smaller police service patrolling our borders. It should be the CBSA, and it's not their fault. I love CBSA. They need more resources. So, Mayor, do you have a minute? Yes.
Do you agree with Premier Legault's comment that he wants anyone who's entering Canada on a visa to get a criminal background check and have an exit ticket? Do you think that do you agree with
Well,
that?
they do that in other jurisdictions around the world. We have to control the immigration coming in. I've stood in front of you 1,000 times and said, I need more people. I need more people to fill the jobs. Now we need to slow down, and I'll tell you the reason why. Exactly why we're standing here. Housing, making sure we have the infrastructure, making sure we have the hospitals and the schools, and we're investing the $50 billion into hospitals and $16 billion into building new schools. But there's to a point that we have to play catch up right now, because we receive the brunt of everyone coming in here. We are spending $1 billion on the asylum seekers and refugees being put up into hotels, a lot in my area. And my heart breaks for these people. It's not that they don't want to work. It takes 18 months to 2 years to get a working permit. So the federal government needs to put a SWAT team together, give these folks that want to work a visa to go out there, working permit, I should say, to go out there and find a job and contribute to society. We need to pick up our productivity. We want to compete against the U.S. We are at 60% of productivity. There's too many people taking in this province and not enough people going out there and giving and working hard. I'm going to clarify that. Anyone that needs mental health, needs addiction help, is disabled in any way, we will take care of them the rest of their lives. And the people that are addicted, hopefully we can get them back on their feet and into the community and working hard. But as a province, as a country, we need to pick it up and start increasing our productivity. So over to Mayor Nuttall.
Backing away from investments from China?
Yeah, thank you. And we'll have one more after.
Thank you, Mr. Premier, and thank you for the question. I think with the relation to the report that came out, some of the comments from Oro-Medonte on the border dispute there, I think it's really important to recognize that the report has actually called for upwards of 4,000 acres to be brought in. And the Premier and the Minister of Municipal Affairs have been very clear that they want to see a local solution. We're working towards that. It can't be the never-never plan. It needs to be one that has a schedule and a timeline, and we're certainly working toward that end. And I think the other piece that's really important on this is that we have a province that's focused on housing and focused on protection of jobs and generation of jobs, and we're begging in Barrie to be part of that. We want to be part of that Ontario solution of Team Ontario. So we're looking forward over the next few months to see a resolution to the subject. Thank you.
Given your rhetoric about choosing Washington and Beijing, should we be backing away from Chinese investments in the Ontario economy? Is that a lie?
We have to make sure that they aren't sending cheap products through Mexico, and we put tariffs on it. But I'm going to pass this over to Mayor Dilkins, and I did ask our Solicitor General yesterday to go out and start focusing on procurement for our southwestern border. It's one of the largest boarding crossings, including Niagara, to make sure they have a helicopter. So between Hamilton and Niagara, we'll get a helicopter, and for Windsor and the police down there, they're going to need a helicopter as well. So Mayor Dilkins, do you have a minute there?
Thank you very much, Premier, and thank you for the announcement that brought us all here together today. Of course, Canada and the U.S., we have the world's longest undefended border, which is nothing but a series of fortified gates with no fence. And so in the city of Windsor, the Gordie Howe Bridge will open in less than a year's time. We're home to the Ambassador Bridge, which is the busiest commercial border crossing between the United States and Canada. And of course, the city of Windsor and the city of Detroit, we respectively own our half of the tunnel crossing, the downtown to downtown connection. What the Premier is referring to with respect to marine services, those fortified gates, those are taken care of. There's enough staff at the fortified gates with CBSA to deal with the volume of traffic that's coming through. But on the marine side, the Windsor Police Service provides marine service, which means boats on the water helping to protect the borders of Canada. And so the cost of that falls directly to the taxpayers in the city of Windsor to help provide that service. And I think it's fair to say, in the context of the discussion that we're having about tariffs and about border security and drugs between Canada and the United States, on the border security side, it would certainly be very beneficial for CBSA and RCMP to have proper resources to help support the security of the border between our two nations. When I look across from my office at City Hall over to the city of Detroit, it may be 1.5 kilometers away. It is that close.
How much investment is there in the Windsor economy?
So let me just say, on the border side, I think we need some more support. We'd appreciate more support. Premier, I appreciate what you're talking about with air support, because it's a large space. It's a large space, and you need that type of investment, that type of technology in the air to help support the border side. On the investment side, with China, I don't have a precise number on the spot for you, but let me tell you, Windsor and Detroit, we're the automotive capital of Canada. Detroit is the automotive capital of the United States. We have just very, very tightly integrated economies on the in the auto industry, and certainly the parts sector. And the best example of that is the parts that go into the vehicle that rolls off the finish line. The assembly line, whether it's in Detroit or in Windsor, has crossed the border on average 7 times for process improvements. And so we welcome all sorts of foreign direct investment. We want to create jobs in Ontario, and certainly in the city of Windsor. And there's a big benefit whether investments made in the auto industry in Detroit. It's great for Windsor, great for Ontario. And certainly when we're opening, with the help of the Premier and the federal government, opening the first electric vehicle battery factory in the city of Windsor, that's great for our country, our province, our city, but also great for Detroit as well. And so when it comes to tariffs, there will definitely be an impact, obviously, on our city and our economy. But that also extends to huge pain on the U.S. side for American workers that rely on those auto jobs as well.
Would you support decoupling?
I just want to give one option. Great mayors have come all the way here. Is there any mayor that would like to come up and say a few words? No? You're all
Get a
good?
raise of hands of who is confident there'll be enough shelter space by the time you start evicting people.
Yeah,
Anybody
well,
who's confident that that would be
we'll make sure they have the resources to do that.
Anybody?
But we don't have the, we can't accept going and taking someone out of the park and saying, here's a shelter, and they refuse to go into the shelter. Well, that's unacceptable. Yes, thank you.
So are you going to be talking about a coordinated strategy for the tariffs, not just Ontario coming out and saying this is what we'll do, but
Absolutely, we will.
across the board? Can you expand?
It will be top of the list. We'll have a good opportunity to sit down. We're going to meet a number of business leaders across the country and have a chat with them as well. But I just want to thank everyone for coming. I want to thank the mayors. We have some great mayors, not just here, but right across the 444 municipalities. I wouldn't be able to do my job without the support of the local mayors. So again, I want to thank you for coming here, and anything I can help you with, I'll be there to support you. Thank you, and God bless. Thanks, everyone.